So over to Karl Knights of Data.ai. Let's launch him. Let's go for it.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Congratulations to Pocket Gamer on 10 years. For those of you familiar with our State of Mobile report, as you can imagine, we'll go into kind of top games downloaded, all the differences between different markets, etc. But seeing as it's 10 years of Pocket Gamer, and I thought we'd have a little bit of audience interaction. This is the only audience interaction I'm planning, and there are no prizes available whatsoever. But we've been doing this report for about 11 years, so who can take a guess, or an educated guess, of when we did this 10 years ago, when Pocket Gamer started, what was the most downloaded game in 2013? Raise your hand, shout out. Doodle Jump, good, but it's not right. Angry Birds? Candy Crush, congratulations. I know as an expert, well done. Any guess on the second one? Subway Surfers. Okay, as I said, no prizes available. That's the only audience interaction. Okay, so my name's Karl. I run customer success at Data.ai. Who are Data.ai? We are the artist formerly known as App Annie. We are the world's leading provider of market intelligence for the mobile app ecosystem, working with a range of different segments, as you can see here, but clearly gaming has been integral since our inception 14 years ago. A very quick disclaimer, none of the estimates I'm going to share here are meant for the purpose of any financial or investment decisions. And really what I'm going to talk about today is a number of perspectives from our State of Mobile Report 2024. So this is something we pour an enormous amount of resource into at the start of every year. I'm always impressed by our team in terms of how they can evolve and add new perspectives, new insight. So you'll have opportunities to download that. But I'm going to talk about some of the kind of high-level macro perspectives of that, some of the genres that were under fire, what were some of the games that really defined 2023, and then have a stab at what we expect in 2024. Okay, so for those familiar with this is where we always start, looking at downloads, looking at spend, looking at the time that we spend within the gaming environment. So to start with downloads, we're always still looking at this kind of period of time comparing to the kind of false highs of 2020, 2021. And indeed, 2022 looked pretty sad against some of those phenomenal levels of downloads and spend that we experienced during kind of COVID. But as we look at 2023, in fact, it's leveled out quite considerably. So just a small decline of 2%. That represents around a third of all downloads from the app stores, just shy of 88 billion. When we look at spend, again, that same kind of obsession relative to kind of 2020, 2021. And again, we see that kind of flattening out fairly considerably. However, there's an important thing to point out here is that figure does include data from the China market. So a number of you may not be operating in that market, subject to various different restrictions, and of course restrictions in terms of usage for anybody residing there. So if we actually take out the data from China, what we've actually seen in 2023 is an increase of 4% in terms of consumer spend, not a decline. The decline in China was around 11%, 2023 on 22. When we look at time, this is kind of interesting to see that this is, definitely kind of leveling out now. We are looking to do other stuff like maybe sleeping, eating, taking a walk, but this is specifically daily time spent for the top 25 markets across the world. And that's kind of leveled out, slight decrease, just less than 40 minutes. Important to bear in mind that is an average, so obviously taking into account those that don't game at all. But as I said, just across those top 20, 25 markets. One thing that hasn't declined at all through a challenging backdrop of 23 is mobile ad spend. So that is ad spend across all different sectors, not just gaming, 362 billion in 2023. And when we look at kind of total hours spent, so looking at all markets, so some of those developing markets as well, again, that's increased 7%, just shy of 500 billion hours. So that's the kind of high-level backdrop. But I wanted to kind of just dive in here, and as I just referenced a moment ago in terms of a challenging 2023 macroeconomic environment, what is the relationship between perhaps what our consumers have seen relative to what they've spent in games and in apps. So what we're looking at here, specifically for the United States, we've taken the disposable income growth index from the OECD and looked at that in terms of its relationship with spend in games on the left and in apps on the right-hand side. So you can see pretty much yourself across this kind of like 6-year period how as disposable income has risen and declined, the spend in games has mirrored that pretty closely. Interestingly, we see the inverse of that when it comes to apps. So, our kind of judgment of that is ultimately that some of those apps are seen more as utilities. Think Spotify, YouTube, Disney Plus, maybe even Tinder, but spend in games still discretionary. But if we zero in on the gaming sector specifically, what we're looking at here now is a kind of weekly measure of global mobile games from a downloads and consumer spend perspective. It's remained relatively flat, slight increase in terms of downloads, around kind of 1.1 billion per week. But a slight increase in spend up to a kind of 1.5 billion on a weekly basis on the right-hand side. So again, important to bear in mind, this includes data from the Chinese market. Again, if we remove that, we see a 4% improvement year over year. There are a number of markets that experienced significant growth in 2023. South Korea, Brazil, Turkey, and France all experienced double-digit growth, did exceptionally well. And as we start to kind of go through this presentation, you'll see there's a theme around those games with significantly strong IP were the ones that really won out significantly in 2023. So Monopoly Go we'll reference more than once. EA Sports Mobile, FC Soccer, another one that performed particularly well, providing kind of console-like experiences. Genshin Impact passed $4 billion in consumer spend in 2023. And when we look at IP combined with strong distribution, we see some blowout results. GTA released with Netflix in the latter half of December, drove 22 million downloads in just 2 weeks. So that is a theme and kind of segues onto this next slide here when we look at the billion-dollar club. So when we're talking about the billion-dollar club here, these are, as it says there, apps to reach $1 billion in annual global consumer spend for the first time. And what we started with, talking about Candy Crush, that reached the $1 billion in 2013. And you can see all the various different games primarily, and then apps in 2020 with the likes of Tinder kind of cross that threshold of $1 billion in annual consumer spend. So a little bit of a perspective on this. Over 1,500 apps generated more than $10 million in annual revenue in 2023. 219 crossed the $100 million threshold, and 13 made it into the billion-dollar club. And there's some new entrants there with Royal Match and Gardenscapes, as well as Google One and HBO Max. Just to kind of point out, as well as we started this presentation with Candy Crush, and as you can see it there in 2013, it's just a phenomenal performance to maintain that across the last 10 years. So that does firmly reside as the number one kind of spend game of all time. Closely followed by Honor of Kings, which was released in 2015. As you can see, made the $1 billion club in 2017. All the more impressive for the fact that has only been available in the China market, which is set to change in 2024. Okay, so that's some of the kind of high level, kind of going in a level deeper now into some of the genres that kind of led, some of those that were under fire. In order to do that, we're using our Game IQ product here. So what is Game IQ? Very quickly, it's our taxonomy for classifying apps into various different genres and subgenres that you can see there. And what we're looking at here, this pie chart, is the distribution of download specifically. So hyper-casual, definitely one of those genres that arguably has been under fire in 2023. As you can hopefully make that out, year over year declined 7.5%. The titles that lead there really, Race Master, Bridge Race, Going Balls, Magic Title. But nevertheless, despite that decline, the footprint is enormous, and we are seeing, obviously some clear signs of different testing and with different dynamics, as you can see the kind of in increasing significantly. Simulation, again, this is where we see just kind of a strength of IP really winning out. So Outfit 7's My Talking Tom 2, Tom Talking Friends, My Talking Angela 2, dominating the simulation category. And Match as well. So led by Candy Crush again, but significant year for Royal Match as well. So the biggest growth category that you can see here, the biggest growth genre with nearly 7% increase in downloads year over year. As we look at that picture for EMEA, no huge change, well, no change in terms of the ranks of the different genres that you can see, but important to note that the decline in hyper-casual is significantly less, and the increase in Match is significantly more at 14.5%. Radically different when we start to look at that in terms of APAC. The decline in hyper-casual even more pronounced, nearly 12%. And we see kind of RPG titles like Genshin Impact, Honjay Star Rail, Survivor.io, and Hero Wars coming in at 8 there, and a significant growth of nearly 20% year over year in terms of downloads alone. Looking at spend now, that changes considerably, so it does require you to look in closely here and see exactly which genres have changed there. And as you can see, RPG and strategy dominate. Nearly 48% of global in-app spend is from those two categories alone, and RPG in particular, at 24.5 billion, more than double the next genre, pretty considerably. So the likes again, Genshin Impact, Honjay Star Rail, Pokemon Go, Lineage M, all leading that considerably. Again, just to kind of touch on Match, it's quite interesting here when we look at the data, particularly in terms of Royal Match, just how effective that game has been in terms of finding a new audience for Match. We don't see a huge crossover between Candy Crush and Royal Match. It's only around 10%. So, clearly the in-game dynamics and attaching the spend to, some of the characters have been really effective in driving Royal Match's performance in 2023. Also, we see Party coming in at number 8 here, led by Coin Master, but it's been a huge year for Monopoly Go, and that's really kind of blown that year-over-year performance of 84% in terms of in-app spend for the Party category. We'll come and look at that in a bit more detail. So, in terms of EMEA, the story here is really, just how that kind of Match category is almost level, is level now with the strategy genre. Up around 26% year over year, and Party even higher, sports entering there. Radically different when, again, we look at APAC. If you remember, there's 24 billion of the kind of global spend in RPG games, nearly 19 billion of it coming from APAC. So there's some of the, as I say, some of the genres that were leading, some under fire, and we've already touched on some of those games that really defined 2023. In order to do that, we use something called Mobile Performance Score. Very quickly, think of this as a kind of credit score for apps. So looking at the kind of indicators of acquisition, engagement, sentiment, and monetization, and relative to the kind of genres that we were just looking at in that pie chart, we're able to kind of give a mobile performance score. And Monopoly Go was a phenomenal performance in 2023. So in excess of 96 million downloads, approaching nearly $1 billion in-app spend. And its kind of social interaction capabilities, its mini games, its offers, and aggressive UA strategy is really what's delivered it into the charts for the first time in 2023 at number 2. From a demographic perspective, 10% kind of leaning towards females in Americas and EMEA. That switches around when you look into APAC, and a clear leaning towards kind of 25 to 34. But expect an even bigger year for Monopoly Go in 2024. And one that we've already touched on with Royal Match. So again, very little crossover with Candy Crush. It's finding a new audience, and that audience tends to be 45 plus and 20% more likely to be female. Now available in 174 markets globally, downloaded over 219 million times, approaching around 2.6 in in-app spend, and you can see its rise through the ranking charts there up to number 2 in 2023. So 2 games, phenomenal performance in 23, and expect them to be in the $1 billion club in 2024. Okay. So just to finish, trying to give some kind of estimation of what will happen even further in 2024. So after the last few years of some spend decline, so 115 to 109, 107 on the top chart there, we do expect that to significantly improve and grow in 2024. So additional $4 billion to be added to in-game spend in 2024. But the growth of non-game in-app spend will outpace and account for around 40% share, which is a pretty significant progression from just kind of 3 or 4 years ago. Even more so, we expect the continued growth of mobile ad spend. So it's compound annual growth rate of 16.2%. Bigger in 2024 than 2023, and we expect that to pass the $400 billion level in 2024. So I just have 2 slides to finish on, and these are slightly shameless plugs, but we would really encourage all of you to join our Data.ai community. This is a new initiative that we set up just in the last couple of months. It's a fantastic place to go and unlock new insight, learn, grow, help us shape Data.ai, but really collaborate with numerous people in the industry. If you can't click that QR code, then come by our booth at G10 on the first floor. And equally, a lot of the data that I've shared today is from the State of Mobile 2024. So if you don't click that QR code, then please swing by our booth, and we'll be happy to provide that for you. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of the show, and congratulations, Pocket Gamer, on 10 years again. Thank you.